town was where the twins were born. This is indicative of the gulf separating contemporary readers from the original audience, an audience alien almost to the point of incomprehensibility. Those first storytellers and listeners might, for example, have taken the fantastic and violent elements much more seriously, with only hearth or campfire to stave off the perilous night. The 14th century, wherein the tales were both told and set, was, as Barbara Tuchman opens her history of that era, a violent, tormented, bewildered, suffering, and disintegrating age, a time, as many thought, of Satan triumphant. Yet it was no arbitrary decision that led Tuchman to title that work A Distant Mirror. Tragedies and atrocities may seem inherently worse when appraised from long after they occurred, but despite all we have accomplished, wars rage, righteous uprisings are viciously suppressed, religious persecution thrives, famine and plague decimate the innocent. This is not to excuse or apologize for any cruelties peppering the following pages, but simply to provide a lens, should the reader require one, through which to view them. We will never know if the Grossbarts were heroes or villains, for as Margaret Atwood observes in her novel The Handmaid's Tale, we may call Eurydice forth from the world of the dead, but we cannot make her answer, and when we turn to look at her, we glimpse her only for a moment before she slips from our grasp and flees. That the Grossbarts themselves would take umbrage at both being associated with the witchery of Orpheus's quest to the underworld and this particular account of their deeds seems probable, but whether their medieval audience would approve remains forever unknowable. This tale is exhumed for our enlightenment, and while I have done some tailoring for our modern sensibilities, their spirit remains just that, and as such unquenchable. As all historians know, Atwood concludes, that selfsame quote, the past is a great darkness and filled with echoes. Voices may reach us from it, but what they say to us is imbued with the obscurity of the matrix out of which they come, and, try as we may, we cannot always decipher them precisely in the clearer light of our own day. With that wisdom in mind, let us cock our ears and squint our eyes toward the brothers Grossbart, and a beginning in Bad and Dorf. Chapter 1. The First Blasphemy. To claim that the brothers Grossbart were cruel and selfish brigands is to slander even the nastiest highwaymen, and to say they were murderous swine is an insult to even the filthiest boor. They were Grossbarts, through and true, and in many lands such a title still carries serious weight. While not as repugnant as their father, nor as cunning as his, horrible though both men were, the brothers proved worse. Blood can go bad in a single generation, or it can be distilled down through the ages into something truly wicked, which was the case with those abominable twins, Hegel and Manfried. Both were average of height, but scrawny of trunk. Manfried possessed disproportionately large ears, while Hegel's nose dwarfed many a turnip in size and knobbiness. Hegel's copper hair and bushy eyebrows contrasted the matted silver of his brother's crown, and both were pock-marked and gaunt of cheek. They had each seen only 25 years, but possessed beards of such noteworthy length that from even a short distance they were often mistaken for old men. Whose was longest proved a constant bone of contention between the two. Before being caught and hanged in some dismal village far to the north, their father passed on the family trade, assuming the burglarizing of graveyards can be considered a gainful occupation. Long before their granddad's time, the name Grossbart was synonymous with skullduggery of the shadiest sort, but only as cemeteries grew into something more than potter's fields did the family truly find its calling. Their father abandoned them to their mother when they were barely old enough to raise a pry-bar, and went in search of his fortune, just as his father had disappeared when he was but a fledgling sneak-thief. The elder Grossbart is rumored to have died wealthier than a king in the desert country to the south, where the tombs surpass the grandest castle of the Holy Roman Empire in both size and affluence.